Hey beautiful people, this video is about what are values at work. Before I started doing this video, I was joking with the team here that values at work are the big words up on the board. But jokes aside, they are the big words up on the board, but they are also something really important and worth paying attention to. They aren't just words on the wall. They're the real rules of the game in any organization. They're the organization telling you what matters to them, what they consider to be valuable. So I'm Jennifer Kenny. I'm the best-selling author of The Innovation Mindset and the award-winning author of 100% Capacity. And I also help project teams working in highly complex technical environments ensure project success through execution. I also run a program called Get Promoted, which is for mid-career people who are looking to, surprise, surprise, get promoted. And one of the things that we do talk about is the values on the wall. Today we're going to talk about what values at work really mean and how they influence everything from hiring to performance and why they should matter for you. The definition of workplace values is kind of, in theory, it is the guiding principles that influence decisions and behaviors. The way I look at it, which is I think simpler and makes more sense to me in terms of how I engage with it, is they're the company telling you what they consider to be important, what matters to them, how they want to conduct themselves, and how they want you to conduct yourself, and how they want you to prioritize what's important to you as you work for them. So what that really means is, let me give you an example. I was working for a company, great company, cool people, and one of their values was assume best intent. Now, that was a really interesting one for me because I might have mentioned in other videos, but patience is not one of my better virtues. So I'm always looking to try and improve on it. And this was really interesting to me because assume best intention meant that even if people frustrated me, irritated me, slowed me down, delivered me bad work, showed up late for meetings, did all of the stuff that has to do with annoying people who aren't particularly patient, I had to assume best intent. So I decided that this was a really interesting value and I was going to play with it for about 6 months. Now, obviously I was doing all of my other work at the same time, but whenever I got an opportunity, I was kind of looking at this and observing it and seeing how it showed up in meetings. And occasionally I'd remember to reflect on it in terms of what it meant for me. But what showed up over time, which I thought was really valuable and gave me an understanding of how important the words on the wall are, was that the assume best intention meant that I had to spend a bunch more energy and effort and a little bit more time trying to understand where other people were coming from, trying to understand why they thought sloppy work was okay, trying to understand why they thought showing up late for a meeting was okay, trying to understand why they thought opposing something that I was doing without helping me understand why was also cool. So there was a whole bunch of things that people were doing all around me that were frustrating and irritating me. And if I looked at it through the lens of assume best intent, I had to understand why they thought that was the right thing to do or a good thing to do or a valuable thing to do. Now, what that did was, one, it made me kind of cool my jets a little bit and understand where people were coming from, what mattered to them, what they were exhibiting in the workplace in terms of their best intentions. But it also led to some really interesting conversations because if I said to someone, hey, I understand that you fundamentally disagreed with what my team and I are doing in that meeting. Can we sit down and talk about it for a minute? I'm actually exploring and playing around with some of our values, and I kind of love the assume best intention one, but I want to understand how that was your best intention. Can you help me understand that? So what I would do with people is I would have these awkward, weird conversations based on the values. And so that opened the door for me to be able to have conversations I kind of wouldn't have had otherwise because they were just too weird. But in these conversations, what happened was I really discovered what mattered to people and what they focused on and why they thought certain things were valuable. And many times I went away going, oh, I understand. Okay, but what would happen if we did this together? Would it be more effective? And the answer was pretty much always yes, because we were just missing a piece of each other's understanding, and we could come together and do a level of co-invention and co-creation that we might not have been able to do otherwise. So the assumed best intention was really valuable for me, not because the company said it was valuable, but because it pushed me into beyond my comfort zone in certain areas where I had tremendous opportunity to be able to learn and build much more trusting and powerful relationships with other people. So rather than look at all of the values of the organization and just kind of look at them as the words on the wall and they kind of blur into each other, pick one every so often that just piques your interest, that pushes you out of your comfort zone, that allows you to open conversations with people that you wouldn't otherwise have. The other thing that I found that was super fun and interesting was people would say to me, why are you having this conversation with me? And I'm like, because look, I'm playing around with how those values sit with me, and I want to see whether or not they're something that matters to you, or I want to see whether or not there's a particular value that resonates with you. And they would either think that I was crazy and they would go back to the values wall and pick one themselves, or they'd have already picked one and they've already had explored some of them. And we would have these very interesting conversations where I would learn a whole lot more about them, who they were, what they stood for, what they considered to be valuable. So the values on the wall are not just the company declaring what they consider to be valuable and the conduct that they consider to be important and the qualities that they consider to matter in people that they hire. They're also a tremendous opportunity for you as someone who is working for the org to be able to start thinking about, how do I relate to those values myself? Now, if you work for a company, you probably have people reporting to you, or you ultimately will have people reporting to you. As you start thinking about these values, see how you embody some of those values. You don't have to embody every single one of them, but if you embody a few of them in a powerful way, it's going to be really valuable for your people, and it's going to put you in alignment with the rest of the organization. As you start thinking about what are values at work and how do those values show up for me? How do I relate to those values? How do I see those values enacted in my leader, in the CEO, in the leadership team, in the division heads? Start also thinking about, if I was to get myself promoted to the next level, if I was to be a manager in the org, or if I was to be a leader in the org, how would I begin to exhibit some of those values for my people in a way that is productive and supportive of them? One of the things that I found is very helpful for people is I have a free assessment, which is my promotion readiness assessment. It's linked down in the comments below. It's getpromotedassessment.com. It's also on my website under the free resources. As you start thinking about values, start thinking about who you are as a leader, if you're a leader already, who you're going to be as a leader if you're looking to get promoted. The promotion readiness assessment asks you to be brutally honest with yourself and start thinking about yourself in those terms. I think it'll help you begin to start seeing how to play and engage with and explore and experiment around the company values and understand how they relate to you, what you stand for, how you manifest those values to the people around you on a daily basis. The other thing to recognize around values is values come in different types. So there are 3 types of values. There are ethical values, which have to do with integrity and fairness. There are operational values, which have to do with efficiency and quality. And there are relational values, which have to do with collaboration and respect. So the assume best intent was a relational value that had to do with collaboration and respect, the one that I used in the example. The reason why values matter is because those values are held by a large portion of the leadership team. Not every value is held by everybody, but they will represent those values in different ways because they're the ones who build them and they're the ones who put them forward. So what they do is they drive trust, and they support the culture, and they help produce alignment. If they make sense to you, if you embody them, if you practice them on an ongoing basis, what you'll do is you'll begin to recognize them in your leadership team, in your department head, in your immediate manager, and you will open up doors to have really fun, really interesting, and really powerful conversations that have to do with how you exhibit those values, how you add value at work yourself, and what your contribution can be and what resonates with you. They're door openers for getting to know people on a level that you would not otherwise have an opportunity to. Research from Deloitte shows that companies with strong values outperform others by up to 12 times in long-term performance. So the values aren't just the words on the wall, they are actually a way of improving overall corporate performance and helping people be in alignment around shared intention, shared purpose, shared values. So when you think about values at work, don't think about them, as we were joking about, as the words on the wall. Think about them as which ones relate specifically to you, which ones you're going to explore and experiment with and begin to practice and see how it shows up for you and the people around you, and then begin to look upwards and see how they exhibit themselves in the organization as a whole. As you go through this process, I have another video that I think will be super helpful for you. It is how to value yourself at work. Go have a look at that and see how that relates to the values that your company espouses. As you go through this process of developing yourself, it's a wonderful journey. I'm here to support you. I wish you the very best of luck with it. Let me know in the comments whether or not this was useful for you. Contribute to the conversation, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and let's continue working on developing you and your values. Take care and good luck.